The Mac Stadiums episode on the Stadium Heads podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their brand new Pick 8. Yes, sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football action. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Build your own betting model using their AI betting engine. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
Hey, everybody, Jim McMahon here, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Have something new coming up. One thing that's been done in any case is education. More education, the more informed people are. That's the way it is with everything. The young ones, they ask me advice, and I always tell them, get as much knowledge as you can.
Stadium Heads, man.
The granddaddy of them all, the famed Rose Bowl, jammed with the color of over 100,000 fans for its 67th renewal.
And the weather here today at Notre Dame Stadium, in a word, it is cold, but it is football weather. The temperature 37 degrees, humidity 79%. Forecast cloudy for light rain later on this afternoon.
The average person doesn't know what a good stadium is. They might think they know what a good stadium is, but they think just, our seats are nice and it's so comfortable. We have a 10,000 inch screen we can watch the replay on while we're watching the game, and we got a waiter coming over to take our orders, right? And there's 20 million bathrooms close to us. That's not what makes a good stadium. A good stadium is the look of it, the feel of it, the history of it, the soul of it. That's what makes a good stadium. That's what I mean when I say we're stadium heads. We are stadium heads.
They get to run around. Now those people, they shouldn't even be there. That doesn't even count. If you can't get out in the elements, you shouldn't even go to the game. That's the worst thing. Those darn boxes up there and dome stadiums and stuff. We don't need that, right?
Welcome to sunny El Paso, the 52nd Sun Bowl, and now
this ancient facility is one of the great settings in all of college football. Neyland is now in its 87th year.
That's what we are, though. We are stadium heads. Welcome back to the Stadium Heads podcast. That is what we are, stadium heads, as we talk Maction. Yes, the Mac Stadiums. I'm excited to break all these ones down. YouTube.com/@Stadium Heads SGPN. Go on over there, hit that like and subscribe button. It's never too early for Maction. Nobody owns a Tuesday or Wednesday like the Mac, baby. If you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dad, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
Nobody knows nothing. Somebody knows. Double the price, but no one touches Dundee.
I love me some action. I can remember Chester Taylor and the Toledo Rockets back in the day. Wasad Payton. Thursday night, I'm a 10-year-old watching this thing. All right, I remember back in the day, Saban. I don't remember. I'm not old enough to remember him playing in the MAC, even though he did. But coaching, I do remember him coaching the Toledo Rockets. Excited to talk all about Maction. I even have me and my brothers growing up. We all had our one Maction team. Mine was the Eastern Michigan Eagles that were asked for a long time. But we're going to get into it. All right. I am joined by, I call him the most interesting man in college football. He's been everywhere to every stadium pretty much. And ESPN might have said it better than me.
They wanted to shout out Michael Barker. You can follow him on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. This is his 84th college football game of the 2023 season. He said he's going to end at 90 college football games he's attended this year with the college football national title in Houston. And so, again, he's out there with everybody.
He's like
wet
the US
weather.
Postal Service. Rain, sleet, snow, it doesn't
Rain, sleet, snow is Maction. Give it up for Michael Barker, aka College Football Campus Tour. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. And Maction is a magical term. When you hear that or you see that hashtag, we're getting into a fun time of the season. And you can't be a college football traveler and get to all 133 FBS stadiums or 90 games in a year without Maction, because you need those Tuesday, Wednesday games, and they make it so you can go to 6 games per week and 24 in a month, and you stay out on the road. You don't even come home. So when you hit November and Maction is there, you're in the peak part of college football season. So it'll be fun to talk about their stadiums.
Yes, we even got the Mac Sports Connection podcast in here, which everybody should go check out. Nothing
Shout out
quite.
to Alex.
Yes, Alex. He's been on the College Football Experience. I know you have known him for quite a while. Shout out to all his work, because he just covers Mac everything. There's a cross country event going on, he's got you covered. This guy going deep. So give him a follow on Twitter as well. Shout out to the whole chat. Nicholas Cano in there says, never got my hat. Well, DM me, damn it. It's not my fault if the thing delivers and someone steals it. DM me again. I'll send you another hat. All right. Yeah, Maction is interesting because we got a new team joining next season, not this season. That's the UMass Minutemen. Before we dive into this going team by team, what do you make of the addition next year of the Minutemen coming in? They used to be in the MAC. They're coming back home, I guess.
Yeah, so it used to be cool to be independent. Is not cool anymore. So, BYU is joining a conference, and, Liberty joined a conference, and it whittled down from a couple of years ago. I want to say the Army, obviously, we just talked about them last week. So there were 7 or 8 independents, and now we're down to Notre Dame, UConn, and no longer UMass. So we just got 2 left. So, Buffalo is up there in the Northeast and a little bit by itself, and UMass traditionally has a great basketball program in the FCS. They won a national championship in 1998. And, I think that obviously academically they bring a lot to the conference. So their stadium size fits in with some of these MAC schools. And, I like an extra opportunity to get up there in the Northeast. They have a good rivalry with UConn. I've been to that game a couple times. So I think it's a good move. And, the MAC has been the most stable conference out of any. So for them to add a school, it's a big deal. And I'm sure that UMass fans are excited, because you get stuck in that independent purgatory where you're not playing for very much. And so the MAC, we see it's a conference where you can flip one year and go 10-2, and the next year you're going 4-6. So anybody could pop up. And I think this will help their program, and, a good addition to the conference for the MAC.
Yeah. And they won't have to play 3 SEC opponents like they have this year. People didn't realize the SEC also, Oklahoma and Texas stole the headlines. UMass in there for 1 season coming up this season. Shout out to Dustin Weeza. Thursday better be full of Maction. Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think it used to more so be Thursday. When in the 90s, when I remember, getting this thing called cable TV and stuff, and then we're just like, what the hell is Toledo? And I don't even think, as a 9-10-year-old, I had no idea. I think I knew it was in Ohio at the time, but I just like, where the hell is this? I need to figure this out. But man, they had some fire teams with Gary Pinkel and stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's jump into it. But before I do that, I want to tell you that you are listening to the Stadium Heads podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Moon off. The Machine, Manji, and Chris are getting ready for the NFL season on the Propcast. They got episodes dedicated to season-long props and the awards market. So check it out. Plus, check out CJ Sullivan, the bet detective, a.k.a. Scumbagger Vance, my pal, and check his comedy. Very, very funny stand-up comic. And his road to $10 million on the Bottom Line Bob's podcast. Check it out, Bottom Line Bob's. Fantastic stuff. He's on the College Football Experience a lot. Tune in wherever you get your podcast on the SGPN app. So do that. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, here we are. And look, we opened this up. If you haven't followed our format, by the way, Stadium Heads, and you're going to need to jump over there, subscribe to us, folks. I highly recommend watching this version on YouTube as opposed to listening to the podcast. But if you're listening to it, that's okay too. But we basically rattle off. We have a list where we'll see where the last time Michael went to each stop, because he's been to every damn FBS school and a lot of the FCS. So let's just jump into that. Talking Max stadiums here. Michael's travels, most recently he was, last year you did Bowling Green, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Kent State, Ohio, and Western Michigan. That's a lot of action for one guy living in California. Let's get to it. So the last time he went to Akron, InfoCision Field, we like to call it Akron Stadium here, was 2021 as the Ball State Cardinals came into town. The last time you were in Muncie, Indiana, not going to get Muncie out in the middle of nowhere. Central Michigan was coming into Muncie in 2021. The last time you were at the Doyt in Bowling Green, Ohio, Ball State was coming into town. The last time you were at UB Stadium for the Buffalo Bulls game was last season when the Ohio Bobcats came to town. Last time you were saying fire up chips with the Central Michigan Chippewas was last season when Northern Illinois came to town. The last time you saw the factory in Eastern Michigan was last season when Akron came to town. And the last time you were at Dick Stadium, Kent, Ohio, was when Bowling Green came to town last season. The last time you were at Yager Stadium in Oxford, Ohio, was when Bowling Green came to town in 2021. The last time you were in DeKalb, I always butcher that. People have left bad reviews on my college football experience because I can't say if I say DeKalb, it never goes as DeKalb. But Northern Illinois, that's the home of Northern Illinois. They are located in DeKalb or DeKalb, wherever. You were there in 2022 as the Central Michigan Chippewas came to town. The Ohio Bobcats in Athens, Ohio. You were there last season as Central Michigan also came to town there. You were in the Glass Bowl, Toledo, Ohio, as Ball State came to town in 2022. And you were in Kalamazoo last season as Bowling Green came to town. Out of all of those travels, I mean, is there one story, and I know we're going to go team by team, but is one of those ones like the crazier game or, maybe the weather conditions were just ridiculous?
Well, last Halloween and we'll go into it. Last Halloween at Central Michigan, Kelly Short Stadium, it snowed the entire game. Pre-game, I dress California warm, which is, jacket and snow pants, and then you got Jordans on and a beanie, right? And your feet are frozen by the first quarter. So we got to take care of that. But it snowed the whole game, and it got some great shots in the snow. And there was a great showing. Even you think on Halloween, on a snow night, you're not going to get a good crowd, but the students showed out, and always appreciate having a chance to do college football on Halloween. So that one is fresh in my mind. And then last year at Buffalo, we had a couple things, a viral tweet of a fan that was up in the very top corner. It was a parent for Ohio player who didn't like to be around a crowd because he couldn't take the negative comments. And so I profiled that guy. I called it Bleacher Features, and that was on ESPN. And then I found him 2 weeks later at Ohio. And then also at that game, a pretty famous obstructed view photo behind the play clock with a 0% view, and you just see me facing the back of a play clock. So those are a couple that jump out. But the fun thing about Maction is the schools and the games are very even. It could be a shootout. It could be, you just don't know what it's going to be. And so that's part of the fun, is roaming the stadium. And you also, there's the only games on. So if people want to get coverage on Twitter, they're going to look to the people who are there. So you own social media from a coverage perspective on these weeknights as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. All right, well, let's start this voyage here as we jump over to the Akron Zips. But before we do that, I do want to tell you that the Stadium Heads Maction podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8 is now live. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry with more picks to make and extra ways to win. The excitement is higher than ever. And the best part, you go up to 325 times your original amount. You can now use specials and boosts too on all flexed entries. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. So sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick. Plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football action. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Yes, if you haven't been to Circa in Vegas, you need to, because let me tell you, Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And of course, Circa has, their contests have no rake. Circa Millions, you pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for the $6 million prize, or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So check that out. Don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season? May I recommend the Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go out. If so, you can hang with my pals, Stacking the Money Green and Ride Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August 24th. So check that out. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, we are here talking Maction, Akron. I call this Akron Stadium. I don't know about you. I still call this Akron Stadium. I know it's InfoCision Stadium, Akron, Ohio. It's 15 years old, seats 30,000. And I'm going to be just flat out honest. This is one where your pictures moved it up my rankings. I adjusted my rankings based on your photos. Tell me about your travels to beautiful Akron, Ohio, and InfoCision / Akron Stadium.
So I've been to 2 games at Akron, 2019, 2021, right in the middle of my travels, 2020 year. There were no fans at Maction. So that was the only year that I didn't get to go there. But what happens with Maction is, you get the 3 weeks of Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you get that one Tuesday Thanksgiving week. So there's 7 opportunities. So when we went through the list of where I've been to 7 of them last year, because you can do that per year. So the fact that I haven't been to Akron since 2021, we're going to emphasize that. They do have that game the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week this year. I think it's November 26th, so I will be at that game. But as far as the stadium, first of all, I think looks-wise, this is the nicest stadium in the MAC. We'll just go off. If we're just talking about the look, the modernness, the press box, all that, there's more historic factors and things we take in with judging, but it's such a contrast between the old stadium that they had. They played in the iconic Rubber Bowl from 1940 to 2008. We don't like old stadiums being torn down. We want them to continue to be useful and renovated. The difference here is that InfoCision is on campus and the Rubber Bowl is 5 miles away. And so we encourage on-campus stadiums. So you wish the Rubber Bowl could continue to have usage, and I know some Akron fans would want to stay there, but they looked at this as an upgrade. It was part of a $300 million campus project, and the stadium itself cost $61 million. Opened in 2009, as we mentioned. So 2 games there, very nice, big, 30,000. It officially holds 27,000 in that grass right there, that berm area that holds 3,000. So big time, and their record, they've had 27,881 at their stadium opener back in 2009.
Yeah, and I wish they would do like what Arkansas does with the game in Little Rock. Play one a year.
So I'll jump in real quick. The Rubber Bowl has been demolished. It doesn't exist anymore. So
I know you took but you showed me some photos a couple years ago of like it was still there. It hadn't been demolished, but it was like graffiti and everything on the wall.
Yeah. So it was, there used to be a soapbox derby there, and you just kind of get caught up in what it was like in 1945 in that whole area with the soapbox derby in there. So you could go and you could take photos. The structure of the bowl was still there. The bleachers were there. The turf was ripped up, but there was graffiti on the buildings. But, as a person, we tweet all the time about defunct stadiums, and, I never got to see the Orange Bowl. I never got to see Pitt Stadium. I never got to see Mountaineer Field, even though that Rubber Bowl was in a dilapidated state and had been in disrepair for many years. I'm really grateful that I got my eyes on it myself. I have a dorky saying. I say that my eyes are my camera and my brain is my DVR. And so I have an appreciation for the Rubber Bowl. And again, you can understand why they made the progression. A G5 investing $300 million in their campus, including a $61 million stadium. That means you're serious about football. And so we missed the Rubber Bowl, but you understand the logic of why you want to move on campus and why you want to build a modern 30,000 seat stadium.
Amen. And I have a deep love for football being played outside where football is supposed to be played. I see this photo here. Yep. Which game was this one? Because snow football is, I miss it every time I see, like, even a photo like this makes me like want to go play right now.
And that's why, when I said when the calendar hits November and you just get this feeling like, fans, even in our intro, you talk about people don't know what a real stadium is. Like, I get credentials and I go into the press box and I thank the SID and I try to meet athletic director and other people I know, but then I'm in the stadium the whole time. And so this was 2019. It was a Tuesday night. I want to say 1st or 2nd November week of November. It was like 11 degrees. There was snow everywhere. They were not letting fans in the second deck, this right here. And I always take a shot of the night and I basically just begged the usher. I was like, please, man, I'm this traveler guy and da-da-da-da-da, and I have this many followers. And he let me go up there and do it, and I appreciate it. But this is the kind of thing where there's maybe 1,000 people at this game, but you feel like you're in authentic Midwest outdoor November football, and it just gets your juices flowing. You don't even care that it's cold because you love it. And so this was it was a blowout. Eastern Michigan won, I think, 42-14, and Akron went to 0-10. So it's not peak, but what we think about, you want to be there on the ground to see this stuff yourself.
And when you think about Maction, one of the things I know, it's a constant conversation. We love it for Tuesday and Wednesday travel. We think college football shit. I've even gone as far as to draw up things. I think I did an episode last year of what college football should do to do give the NFL Sunday and Monday if you want, but take the other 5 days and put college football games and scatter them through. Now the knock against for some MAC schools, I know they moved like the Battle of I-75 away from a Tuesday, Wednesdays because people got to work. So the fan turnout, they say, is not as big, but to me, if TV contracts are running everything anyway, then whatever. But I still say, if you live in the Akron area and you're a fan, you got to get out to the games. I know they've been asked lately, but still, I think that's something that they're always, battling. I think coaches want it more so on Saturday, but the TV networks say, hey, we're going to give you this big check if you do Tuesday or Wednesday. And I think I'm actually with the TV networks on this one. How about you?
Well, I'm with it. And I always counter with a couple things. For, Conference USA thought it was such a good idea that now they're doing it in October. There are, there's 262 Division I schools, and we could have 80 games on Saturday. What are the chances that you're going to tune into Akron, Ball State on a Saturday and find that game when you got these SEC games and these Big Tens and all this other stuff? It doesn't mean that you won't. It just means that they know what the trade-off is. The trade-off is we get an entire month, 2 days a week on national TV to broadcast our schools. And during the commercials, we can play, about how the academics at our institutions are great. And we can promote the whole student experience. It could be lightweight infomercials 7 days or 7 days a month on ESPN. And the trade-off is there's not that big of a crowd. But let's take this game, for example. Akron was 0-9. And if this game was on a Saturday, you probably got a few more people, but you wouldn't have been on big time ESPN. That's the trade-off. So and as far as from a college football traveler, like I've been to App State 5 times. It's always been on a weekday. I've been to Coastal 4 times, always been on a weekday. I've been to UTSA 5 times, 4 or 5 of those are on a weekday. A couple of these, I've been to Ohio 4 times. And you get that familiarity, and then all of a sudden, like you could showcase them, how to cover it too. So I know it's not ideal, but really the only conference now that's not playing on a weekday is the SEC. The Big Ten just released their whole Friday. They got the whole season every Friday. The only teams that are not playing are Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Everybody else is on a Friday. So I agree. Go out and take those days and own them. And college football fans will find college football if you put it on TV, regardless if the NFL is playing and regardless if it's on a Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, they're going to tune in and watch it.
I also think that the 12-team playoff, and I know I don't want to be too much of a dead horse because we talk about this every week, will help that. Fan interest, if you're at one of these universities, it doesn't matter. I'll take my buddy that I grew up with. He was not a big sports guy. He came over from, he's Lebanese, moved to DC, went to George Mason. But when they made that Final Four run, it made them a George Mason fan. Now he even goes to games still to this day. And I don't think that happens in football because you're just sitting there saying, well, we can't make it. But now you look back and you say, I know the 12 team is just, your top group of 5, but Western Michigan would have made it. Northern Illinois would have made it had we had this system in the past 20 years. And that can spark something I think that we just didn't ever have before. And I bet you they expand past that in the future too, as well. So something to keep in mind there. Next up, we go to Ball State. But before we do that, I want to tell you that the Stadium Heads Maction podcast is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And next up, we go to Muncie, Indiana. My pal, Carson Steele, who's now on the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a couple glorious years there in Muncie. There we go. Look at that Fireball State t-shirt, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Get on over there. Scheumann Stadium, Muncie, Indiana, 57 years old, seats 22,500. Tell me about your travels to good old Muncie, Indiana.
So somehow I've only been to one game here, and it was in 2021. And it was, I want to say, I was on my path to all 130 FBS stadiums at the time. This was one of the last ones. It was about 127. And there's 2 sets of photos here. One is just a campus visit during the day, and the stadium looked amazing. That's one of the, from a photo, photographer perspective, very few Maction games in November are going to have the sun out because daylight savings time is already gone. So you get to see some of the aspects of the stadium in the day that you can't necessarily see at night. But 2021, they played Central Michigan, and it rained like hell the entire game. I remember standing on the visitor side, and those flags were just flapping really hard. And in that game, the running back Lou Nichols for Central Michigan, he ran for 219 yards and 3 touchdowns. He just put them on their back and won it. But this stadium was built in 1967. It started with 16,000 seats. They got it up to 22,000. It was named Ball State Stadium until 2006. And, famous alumnus David Letterman was lobbying to get the stadium named after him. But John and Joan Scheumann, they're donors, and so they got their name on it. And, it holds 22,000 officially, but you can see that grass area on this stadium as well. In 2008, they were 11-0, and their season finale was against Western Michigan, and they set the record, 23,861 fans at the game. And they won that, and they finished the regular season 12-0. That was the biggest crowd. So, this is a cool stadium. What I like about it is you got some, you have end zone seats, and in that far end zone you're showing, you got that berm grass area. And I just like those pillars. I don't know how to describe it other than there's pillars out there. You got a sleek press box. You can walk around the stadium pretty easy. So they play a game on a weeknight in November this year. I can't the date is escaping me, but I will be back at Scheumann this fall.
Yes, and Nate Davis was the quarterback on that 11-0 team, and that's a perfect example. They packed that thing, because they were winning. Like I said, college students, I feel like they, even if they're not into if you just start winning and you have a legit shot to get to a postseason, I think it changes everything.
Give the students and the city a reason. Give them a reason, and they will come.
Yes,
they will come. Just give them a reason.
I can't help but, I host the college basketball experience, and I can't help but think when Grand Canyon plays a game, they've been to the tournament 2 or 3 years in a row. They have one of the best home environments. Gonzaga.
I've been to a basketball game at Grand Canyon.
At Grand Canyon, there we go.
I can attest to it. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At Gonzaga, the same way. That didn't just start up. Gonzaga in the 90s started winning games, or late 80s. With, they had John Stockton at one point, but I'm saying then that starts building and it starts becoming a show in town, all because they have a shot. It's essential to me to get that. But shout out to Dustin and everyone in the chat. He likes this one. Now Cannabis Capper says, how different is the weekday crowd experience compared to the weekend? Depends on the matchup. I would say it does depend on the matchup, because, and you might know this better than me, Michael, but I think, if they're 10-1 or 11-0, I think they'll come out. And I think, if Akron, who you just touched on a minute ago, they were 0 whatever when you went to that game. So obviously it's a Tuesday night. Probably got to work a shift or something. You want to really bust your ass and go out to a night game of a winless team with no chance? I think that probably has something to do with it. But Michael, do you want to answer that one?
I feel like that the crowds are better on Saturday for the most part. We're going to get to Central Michigan. I've been to 2 games at Central Michigan. One was in the snow last year on Halloween in October, and the students showed out, but it wasn't, a huge crowd. And in 2021, same scenario with Ball State. I needed it to get to 1:30. I actually went to their homecoming, and it was damn near a sellout. And it was at, I want to say 2 p.m. in the afternoon instead of 7 p.m. So I would say, with some exceptions, I think I went to Bowling Green versus Toledo Battle of I-75 in 2022. That was a weeknight game. They got over 20,000 on that game. So there can be exceptions there, but I would say that for the most part, the in-stadium crowd experience is usually going to be better on Saturday if there's no special circumstance, like they're 11-0 and they're going to, clinch a spot in the MAC championship or something like that. So if it's just 2 regular season games, I would say by default, the Saturday is going to be a better crowd experience. But for a traveling perspective, you want to just get a chance to go anytime. So you'll take those weeknights every single year.
I think you're right too, because I think part of it is just built into the how many people work office jobs, or how many people work jobs where you travel. I mean, I got a brother that goes all over the United States. So it just on a Saturday, normally you got the day off. Not many, unless you're bartending or cop or something. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you don't work on Saturday or work for ESPN. But I just feel like it's more programmed. Hey, we got the day off. Hey, let's go catch the game. But this is something I think it's worth the sacrifice to play those games on weekdays at the same time. This stadium does look beautiful though, man.
And especially since they play all of September and all of October on Saturdays, and then most of them play Black Friday on the last week of the season. So we're talking about 3 or 4 weeks. And, Conference USA just started doing it. Last year I went to 8 of the 10 Conference USA schools. MAC, I usually can do 7 out of 10. So it's a good way to, if you're fortunate, obviously, to be able to do this yourself. But you're right. I mean, if you work an 8 to 5 job and kickoffs at 7 o'clock, you're not going to get your tailgating in. You're not going to do a lot of this stuff. And so Saturday offers for the most part, a superior game day experience. However, they know the trade-off. And they want to be on national TV. And it's a cult thing. Maction is a cult thing. And the reason it's a cult thing is because it's on a weekday.
Yeah. I like the press box, man. It's kind of got that old school look to it.
No, I like it too. I mean, you imagine the stadium is only 16,000 seats. So it was probably just one side and the other. And then they throw in the end zone seats and they redo the press box. And They, you know, put those pillars out there and they, you know, get the grass looking good. It's a good looking stadium.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Next up, we go to the Doyt Perry Stadium, Bowling Green, Ohio. 58 years old, seats 33,500. You know, Bowling Green. I went at one point when they had Urban Meyer, they were rolling. Even after Urban Meyer, when they had Dave Clawson, they had Dino Babers, they had this thing really rolling. I don't know what happened. It's been tough lately. I feel like more. They did get a win against Minnesota though in the past like year or two. That was a big win, but yeah, they haven't been as dominant for a while. They were dominant. Tell me about your travels to the Doyt.
So I've been to 3 games there: 2019, 2022, 2023. If you go back to that first photo, that was the game that I was talking about where they played Toledo, Battle of I-75, separated by 25 miles. And it was a weeknight, and they had over 20,000 in that stadium. It holds 33, but that's still a really good crowd for a weeknight. And, not warm, so they showed up regardless. But, the stadium started out as 22,000 seats, built in 1966. Doyt Perry is a former coach and athletic director for the program. In 2007, they added the SEBO, so I'm going to say SEBO Center in the north end zone, which is suites and offices and training facilities. And in the south end zone, we'll get to that. There's these containers that I want to speak on when we get a chance. But they've upgraded it, they've invested, and the record that they ever had was 1983. They played Toledo, and it was 33,527. And at the time, that was the record for any attendance in the MAC.
Yeah. And like I said, they were rolling for a while. And it's funny, the chat is talking about this receiver that had for a while, man, they just were pumping out guys. I remember like Omar Jacobs and Josh Harris. If I had to guess, it was probably those years that he's talking about the wideouts. It was Freddie Barnes in 2009, 155 catches.
Damn.
That's insane. That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like 2009, was that still 11 games? Actually, it was probably 12 by then.
It was like 13 catches a game, something like that. Yeah.
That's insane. Absolutely insane. But yeah,
I don't know if we can get forward. There's there's these containers that I want to talk about because it's a little bit of a phenomenon at schools, and there was a little bit of a viral tweet. I don't know that right there. So they put these containers out there, and there's a bar, there's a barbecue. Above it, there is a putting green, and you can rent these things out and watch it, and they're heated, and so
I love it.
Yeah, and I've seen these at other stadiums, and during it was either the end of last year or the beginning of this year, the Atlanta Falcons released a thing where they were going to start offering these premium in zone private outdoor suites, and they look just like this. And I did a tweet. I said, "Poverty NFL franchise copying the great Bowling Green State University, who did it first and better," right? And that thing just went all over the place. So, but this is what you do to be innovative, right? They're not cutting down on attendance. They're not removing some bleacher. They're not knocking down a building. They're offering something unique, and maybe it's not for you. Maybe you don't want to do it, but there are some people that want to have a little party. It's almost like tailgating at the stadium. We talked about Charlotte last week having that Niner Club at the top of the road zone. So I've seen these. Austin P I can think of right off the top of my head. SEMO I can think of, and there's plenty other I'm sure people can suggest. But this right there is when you talk about the ingenuity that you need to be a G5 to get butts in the seats. Okay, maybe you don't want to freeze your butt off in the bleacher on a Tuesday, but maybe you can get 15 people together to throw in $80 a pop, rent this thing out and have a barbecue and have beers and, sit at the second level and enjoy the game a little bit differently. So I like these. I thought they were pretty cool.
I was about to ask, what do you think one of those go for?
I always try to ask, because I want to put there in some ways I try to act like a reporter, even though people want to tell me that I'm not. I want to say it was somewhere around $1,500 a game. And, if you get 15 people, they're throwing in $100. somewhere in that range. I'm sure they have a season ticket package as well, but it's nothing cost prohibitive if you have enough people, you know? So I didn't see anywhere there was like 2 people or 4 people and they just were balling and threw it all out there. It was a group of people. And so it's not cost prohibitive, which is what we need at the G5 level.
Dude, I like, we might have to do an SGPN trip where we, a stadium heads trip where we meet up with stadium heads and just put that thing on the, write that thing off to Uncle Sam, because that just seems like
I'm going there this year. So you guys,
that seems like a great fucking plan, man. We got to figure that out. I think, those things are awesome. And I didn't want to scoot past some of these other photos. It looks cool. You know, it's a cool stadium. And look, the Battle of I-75 is a rivalry that I think it's one of the low key great rivalries in college sports. And we do have an obstructed view alert here. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. What are we getting here? 35%?
Yeah, and there's 4 of them because there's twin ones on each side, and then they're on each side of the press box. So I think I took a joke tweet and I did 4 of them all at the same time. But it's the classic thing. I'm guessing that originally maybe it didn't have that little press box, and then they built it. They intruded on a few rows within the bleachers, and then they left those to go up to the side, and it makes for a funny photo. And the SID always denies credentials for social media people. So, they're trying to avoid what they think is making fun of the stadium, and we're not. Okay. I'm saying all these positive things, and I think people should go check out a game in Bowling Green, and you could park right across the street for the stadium for free. And they have affordable concessions, and you can sit right up there. It's a great place. But hey, this is what we do. We cover the stadium, and we've said this many times. Obstructed views are fun. We're not trashing it, but you get some people who are locked into the old ways. You have to write for the official newspaper, or you have to have this or that, and they want to control it. And so anyways, for obstructed views, choose at your liking.
Yeah, we don't hate on obstructed views. They take it with, these SIDs. Come on. I mean, this is something we're trying to make it fun here. And the
tide is turning. Yeah. We've turned the tide. Okay. I feel like we've turned the tide because, I tell that story about Boston College and they didn't like it, whatever. But it's much better. But again, we're having fun, and people think this is fun. And when they go to the stadium, they go sit there and they like it. Okay. So, but yeah, even the great Doyt L. Perry Stadium has obstructed view photos.
There you go. And I think our former president, George W. Bush, might have something to say about that.
I think tide turning, as I remember, I was raised in the desert, but tides kind of it's easy to see a tide turn.
It is easy to see a tide turn. We're seeing that tide 100%. Turn. And get yourself out to the Doyt this fall. Let's go Bowling Green. Next up, we're going to jump over to UB Stadium. They need to get UB40 to do the halftime show at these places. Amherst, New York. I'm surprised to learn this. I think it was you a couple of years ago when I had you on our show that I thought this was in Buffalo. It's in Amherst.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get
cool
this thing.
Spot. I got a speeding ticket there last year though, so that was a little bit of an issue. So, but they sent me a notice and they knocked it down to a parking violation somehow. And they said they don't like to add points to drivers' licenses and records in New York, so they'll make a deal, which is pay $150 and a speeding ticket could go away. So it was only like 52 and a 35. And so anyways, I know it's Amherst because I had a ticket that said that.
31 years old, seats 25,013 people. Okay. Number one.
Yep.
You had Khalil Mack here. You had Lance Leipold here. Let's ditch this. Let's ditch the track. All right. Come on. What is it going to take? How many people got to tweet at them?
I can tell you exactly what it will take. Okay. So, I went there last year. These photos are from last year. I also went in 2018. They played Army at noon, and then I made the whiteout at Ohio State at night. So been there twice. The stadium was built in 1993. with 15,000 seats. So it was just the bleachers on the road side and the home side. They added the end zone seats, a grandstand in 1999, another 10,000 seats. They were playing off campus at a stadium. It was called Walter Kuhn Stadium, Kunz, and it only held 4,000 seats. And so part of getting them back, they started in FCS and moved up to D1 after they improved the stadium. But this stadium had two purposes when it was built. One was to give Buffalo a bigger home, but it also was to host the 1993 World University Games, which was a track event. And so it was served a dual purpose, and great to get a stadium on campus, but now everybody hates tracks. And we did the FCS Invitational Tournament on Twitter a couple months ago, and places like Franklin Field and A.W. Mumford and Stewart Stadium at Weber State, they didn't go very far because people just looked at the track and they thought negative. So I talked to people at Buffalo when I went there, and I said the same thing. I said, you got to get rid of the track. And they told me it would take $50 million to do it. And I said, what are you waiting for? Right?
I don't get.
Sorry.
No. So it's a lot of money. In the end zone there, they are just opened up a brand new indoor practice facility, state of the art. So they are investing. But we're going to get to Eastern Michigan in a couple, and they covered their track. Max Crosby donated $1 million, and they put a new gray turf there, and they put green around it. And even though it didn't close the gap between the stands and the field, it looks a lot better. And so we have Sam Houston State, we have Buffalo with full tracks, and we have Hawaii and Nevada with partial tracks, and that's it. That's all we have in FBS. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
I'm okay with Franklin Field being Franklin Field because it's that old.
I agree.
This one's built in the 90s. You got no fucking excuse to me. Get rid of it. There's not enough history. Franklin Field, it's like you could picture like every great athlete America's ever had running there at some point. So it's like, okay, don't fuck with the masterpiece. This one, I think you gotta. And look, I've always wondered. You know, me and Patty C always do this exercise. Which team could be the next big deal at their university? Like Miami was irrelevant in the 1950s and stuff. They came up in the 80s, really late 70s and 80s. You could do that for every single team. And Buffalo's one where it's like the Bills fans are so awesome. The Sabres fans are so awesome. Like they're a sports town. You just have to give them a reason. You have to give them. I like even this when I see it's like I don't care. It's a weekday. I've been to Buffalo. All right, I know what it. They're a sports town. They will show up to me if you build it. Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. I believe that 100% with Buffalo. You might be able to sell me on Akron or something. On Buffalo, I truly believe it.
And another part of that is Buffalo Bills fans embrace the weather, right? Nobody wants to go play a playoff game at Orchard Park. I mean, I know they're getting a new stadium. So this game was cold. It was cold. And you want to embrace that as part of your identity. And, no slight at some of the directional schools, but when you talk about big time, this is Buffalo, University of Buffalo. It's not North this or Central this or whatever. So I agree with you. They got a cool logo. They have good alumni. They're investing in their facilities, and they have you said Coach Leopold, they've had success in their program. So we're stadium heads and we critique things, and we have enough information from people on Twitter and people have been there. Tracks are no. And so again, when I pose the question, $50 million for a G5 is extremely cost prohibitive. That being said, this university deserves a great Division I FBS stadium, and right now the track holds them back.
I agree. I completely agree. We also have an obstructed view alert. Dude, this is gold.
Awesome.
This looks like you're awesome. It's like a it almost looks like it's like an air conditioner. You know what I mean? Like, what do you have? Like, what What is that you're staring into? I mean, is that just the column? Because it looks almost like electronic to me.
It's the play clock. So,
okay.
yeah. So usually what they'll do is they'll put the play clock behind, behind the end zone, kind of sticking up a little bit, and nobody's going to run into it. But sometimes they're low, and maybe you can't identify it from the field. So this was the highest point that they could put, and it's a general admission seat. It has a seat number on it. At this particular game, it wasn't full capacity, so you could choose other seats, but this one is for sale. And it was actually difficult to get help with this photo because there was really nobody around. And so I have to go find somebody, have them not think that I'm a crazy person, and then get
Honey,
them
I gotta go help this. Honey, I gotta go help this weirdo. I'll be back in 15 minutes.
That's actually exactly how it went. That's exactly how it went. And so, who's this crazy guy by himself facing a shot clock and asking for a photo from a grown man stranger? That's me. That's what I do. That's what people want to see. So,
this is
the whole, yeah. So for obstructive view photos, the whole shtick is to look intently like you're watching the game, despite the fact that there's a giant play clock blocking the entire field. So I had another photo. I had another photo from the other side. You can just see my feet sticking out of the bottom. So, but I've told people this is going to be a destination seat from now on. When next year comes around and there's people playing at UB Stadium, I'm going to be shocked if I don't get tagged in these photos for people sitting there in the same way I am in this picture.
Absolute gold, man. This is fucking hilarious. YouTube.com.
One of one in college football right there. One of one.
YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. I see 994 people watching this right now. Hit that like and subscribe button if you can. And you might be confused on what I mean by saying hit the like and subscribe button. We want you to subscribe to the Stadium Heads podcast because I know I'm putting this out on like 5 different feeds. Eventually, we're going to break away from those. All right. So don't just subscribe to whatever you're viewing this on. You might already be subscribed. Stadium Heads, get on over there. 995 people, please. Thank you. We're grateful.
Go to my Twitter profile, and my pinned link is the link to this YouTube, and you can just hit subscribe and like, and more subscribers, maybe a little bit more ad money. Maybe we could push the envelope a little bit more with our travels this year. So help me, help you, help me, that sort of thing. So
yes. A+B=C. If you want to see Michael and more shots like this, it honestly, it helps. And then obviously us getting sponsors helps that. We like to get everything going here. And I feel like 997 people, we're thrilled with that number, but at the same time,
absolutely,
we want you to be, we want you to jump over and hit that like and subscribe button. Tell a friend too, if you can. Tell a friend, because I think this is a very unique podcast that I really haven't seen anything else, any scratching the surface of this. So we're at 1,000, by the way. Just got to 1,000. So someone just did tell a friend. Appreciate you. 1,001. If we get to 1,500 this episode, I'll do a 50% off the t-shirts. All right. I'll put it like that. Nice. 50% off the t-shirts. If we get to 1,500. So tell everybody. Look at that. Stadium Heads, get on over SGP. If you get the SGPN app, it's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. You can just click on the merch store, or you can go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com, click on merch, Stadium Heads. It's all there. Next up, we got Central Michigan, Kelly Short Stadium, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, 52 years old, seats 35,107. And I'm not fond of the name in a way, but your photos here really made it look beautiful, man. This place I got to get to, I think. I didn't have this. I don't know. It was just kind of there to me. I don't want to say it was bad, but I never truly valued it. And your photos, when I was putting together the slideshow, I was like, damn, this looks pretty. This looks like a cooler stadium than I thought. Tell me about your travels to catch the Chippewas play.
So as far as the name, first of all, so Perry Shorts Stadium was the original name, and that was a donor named Perry Shorts. And then they had a coach, I want to say like late 30s, 40s, early 50s. His name was Bill Kelly. And so they merged it. And, you know, we see Bryant-Denny Stadium. It sounds a little bit better than Kelly Shorts, but that's where the name derives from. So this place, built in 1972, started out with 25,000 up to 35,000. 1997, $28 million expansion, added 10,000 seats, got to the number they're at there. That north end zone right there, you see that facility, that's a football facility. And then they added the press box at that time as well. But I've been to 2 games there. And so this one is from Homecoming 2021, mentioned earlier, as far as this is a big crowd. And this is when I was chasing the end of, I hit 130, which was out of 130, which was Utah on Black Friday of 2021. So somewhere November 28th. So all these Maction ones in 2021, they were, 125 and 126. So I needed this. But this was a great crowd in 2021. They beat Toledo in overtime. 20,000 fans showed up. And then I sent you another set of photos, which were from Halloween last year. They played NIU on Halloween, and it was a snow game, and they won 37-31. So, Michigan is an underrated football state. We know about Michigan. We know about Michigan State. But, you got Kalamazoo, and you got Mount Pleasant, and you got Ypsilanti, and all these ones there. And so Mount Pleasant is the most northern city for FBS football in Michigan, and it gets really cold. And that game last year, it snowed right from the beginning, and it was amazing. It was one of the coolest.
This shot.
This
Are
shot,
you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm putting together this slideshow. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I'm putting together this slideshow, and I honestly sent this photo to my brother, and I go, tell me this doesn't make you want to just fucking I don't just call everybody and let's go play football.
And
that's what we did as kids.
Never watch a game in a dome for the rest of our life.
Yes, 100%, man.
I have another photo that's fairly similar to this. It wasn't, but it was from South Dakota State, 2022. It was the FCS semifinal. It was the coldest sporting event in the history of South Dakota. -6 degrees at kickoff, wind chill low. And it was, I took the photo. It looked like frozen tundra Arctic. And that thing, people respond to that photo so much. So this is the kind of thing where, me and you talk about being football guys that go on YouTube and go watch old games. I type in the search snow NFL games or 1980s college rain mud games. And I got to go to this one and, beat a dead horse. I'm a guy from California, and I loved every minute of this. It was like a pig in slop. And, I slept in the Planet Fitness parking lot in my car afterwards, which was not very fun. But you will sacrifice and go without sleep and go without accommodations to get this photo. For a traveler, this is what you live for. And it was an incredible night. And, the photo speaks for itself.
It's flawless, man. This is perfection. And I really think that people lose, like the NFL is on my shit list because every stadium's turning into a dome. And I really think they forget the element of this. Like when I was a kid, and it could have been we're on vacation in wherever, the Carolinas or Florida or something. If it was raining, but obviously where I grew up in the DC area, if it's rain, snow, we'll play football in the sunshine. Don't get me wrong. We played a lot, but if it's raining or snowing, doesn't matter what time of year it is. We're calling the friends. We're saying, hey, let's go over. We had 2 stadiums, 2 fields dedicated to, one called Lambeau, one called Soldier. We would just go say, meet at Lambeau, meet at Soldier. And that was us, man. I feel like don't forget that element of it because there's the kid in you. We're playing a game that you're playing a game that you can't play in your fucking 40s. All right. Tom Brady and 3 other people, George fucking Blanda played it. Right. But I'm saying not many people have that opportunity anymore. So it's this is something sacred from your childhood, man. This is why, we watch the games. And I think,
and another,
what's that?
Well, another part of the childhood stuff is when we were kids, we looked up as football players as tough guys, right?
Yeah.
And we're not saying that they're not tough now, but this was a way to football is a battle. It's a war of attrition. It's a battle of wills, all those, you know, the sayings that people use. And this is that variable that you can't account for your scheming and how you're going to go up against somebody. You have to adapt on the fly. And, you know, this game was not snowing like this at kickoff. There was snow, but they had cleared the field, and this was the second quarter and it started coming. So when you are a child and you're talking about that, you know, the aspects that you're pointing out, you're also looking up to these guys like these are the toughest guys there. And look
well
what
said.
they're dealing with it. And we want that to be part of football forever because that's how we respect what these guys are doing. And we're not saying they're not tough when they play in, you know, I call the NFL the CCFL, the Climate Controlled Football League. They're still tough guys, but this is the kind of thing where you can watch 40 games on Saturday if they're all in perfect weather. Maybe you're not going to get your eyes drawn, but you got that one that's a blizzard or that one that's you get drawn to that immediately, and we like it.
100%, man. I mean, you can't say it any better. It's like you took the words right out of me because I feel like that is something, an element of it. We're watching NFL films back in the day, you know, watching anything. It's such a key element of the sport. You can't lose sight of that. This stadium looks, dude, I gotta go just off that photo, but even the other photos make it look really beautiful, man. And I think maybe I was underestimating how beautiful this stadium was. There's another snow shot there. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. But yeah, it's a very cool looking stadium too. Got some trees behind the stands there. Yeah, I dig it, man.
And that was the first quarter right there. Yeah. So these photos without snow are the first quarter, and then the other one with the snow is the second quarter. And there's me. Like I said, I got a jacket and I'm warm, and I got my 11s on, right? Which
I was about to say, how did that treat you? Kept you warm? Kept you warm still?
Well, there's a point where you just don't feel your feet anymore, and that's pretty much what it was. So this year, before I hit the road, I'm going to actually invest. I say it every year, but then I'm cheap, you know, and so I don't do it. But then when you get out there and you get reminded of how frozen your feet are, and then you got to go back to your car and hit the heater for about 20 minutes to get feeling. So, but not going to discourage me to go back. So I just got to prepare a little bit better.
Dude, I went to, and this, you're going to think it's funny because it was in Austin, which doesn't get that cold, but it did this time. I went to a Kansas State, Texas game where I was wearing Chucks, and damn if it didn't pour down rain the entire time. So like, I mean, but I'm happy with that. I was loving it, but I will say Chuck Taylor's not the best move when you got a heavy downpour going on. So always keep in mind the shoe game. Next up we go. Oh man, this photo is great too, man.
And like I said, we got the contrast of the day game at homecoming and then the night game in the snow on Halloween. This is, you know, so when you want to see both aspects of Maction, these photos will show you both sides of the coin.
Hell yeah, man. Great stuff. Next up, we do go to the factory, Rynearson Stadium, Eastern Michigan, 55 years old, seats 26,188. And you were talking about this earlier because Max Crosby, one of the best defensive players in the NFL, donated $1 million recently to the University of EMU for their football field. And was that directly to remove the track, or what was that? Was there just hey, here's $1 million to help the university?
So they renamed the field Max Crosby Field, and I think part of that was they put in so there's a new surface for the gray turf, and while you're doing it, you might as well cover up the outside. So all these is kind of like a dull red orange looking track. All that is covered with just green grass looking turf. Now they will have to do things to fill it in. Maybe they could put some of those end zone containers that we saw at BG, but it just changes the look. And App State did that at Kid Brewer, and look at what people think about Kid Brewer. And they did that at Boise State, and now people, you know, you just take things off the list that people can no longer criticize, you saw how we talked about Buffalo. Well, we're not going to talk about the factory like that because they took care of it.
Yeah, no, and I've always loved the gray field. It makes me feel like I'm watching a game in 1955. Yeah, and this was the home, and I've said that the Michigan Panthers and the UFL should play there because it's laughable when it's at Ford Field and there's like 3 people there and that gigantic stadium. This is perfect for it. And it was also the home to the Detroit Wheels in the WFL back in the original WFL in the 70s. And there was a guy named Rocky Long who played for the Detroit Wheels, who invented the 3-3-5 defense. That is, I'm doing these 134 previews on the College Football Experience podcast. I feel like every damn team is moving to the 3-3-5. So a little bit of knowledge there. Look, I always loved, like, if the walls could talk type shit. This stadium's got some history to it, man. Charlie Batch, who's I know part of their NIL collective, and it's crazy that he, I know they offered Caleb Williams $1 million to try to go there. Didn't work out for them, but hey, I like the progression. I like the progression that this thing's going with. Let's go EMU. I told you I'm a Mac guy, and my team is EMU. Shout out to Chris Creighton. I got to get there for a game. How many times you been here, man?
I've been there a lot. So these are just, campus visits. I want to say it's about 15 minutes from the big house. So it's an easy 2-for-1. So I've been there for 3 games, 2018, 2021, and last year. The last 2 were Maction games on a weeknight, but the first one in 2018, I did a noon game. They played Toledo and they won 28-26. And then I drove about 2 hours and 30 minutes to Notre Dame and saw Notre Dame play FSU at 7:30. And, you would want to 2-for-1 it with Michigan. That would be much easier, but it's within striking distance of several schools. So you can do that. And even in the time that I've been going there, they changed the facade of the press box. It used to be like a gray color and now it's green. That end zone football facility, they've changed the look of that as well. And now that they've cleaned up the track thing, it's going to look a lot better on TV. So last year, there was a great game there. In the end zone, they had like wrestlers who sat in ice buckets and they tried to like stay in there as long as they could. They stayed in there the entire first half, and like medical staff kicked them out because they were worried about them being so tough. They were going to get, hypothermia and all that. So they're always willing to push the envelope at these Maction games. And that's why it's fun to cover them in person and of course showcase them on TV. Yeah, man. I love the gray field. People can say what they want about it. I dig it. I dig it. I only need them doing the triple option or like the wing tee. We need them to do this. I want to go complete blast from the past and have them do this there. But Chris Creighton, I think, has done an unbelievable job with this program. Rooting for them in the 90s. Like I said, me and my brothers all had one MAC school. And EMU was rough. The MAC was just, everyone was dominating except EMU. I think they went from like 87. They went like 20 or 25 years without a bowl game. And then Chris Creighton walks in and they start going to bowl games left and right. So shout out to that. And I love to see what Max Crosby's doing to help out what made him him. One of the things that made him him. So fantastic stuff here. And that's their old logo there. What do we got here on the left? This is the brick wall, right? Yeah. So before the game, they come out of like a garage door. And they walk up there and there's smoke going and a couple players get sledgehammers and they knock down the wall, and so it's a cool tradition. I got a video of it last year. Just another, this is a blue collar town and they work hard and they play outdoors and they deal with the elements and they're playing in cold weather on a weeknight in Michigan and they lean into that identity. And I think it's very cool.
Yeah. And I got to admit that I love the retro logo too. But yeah, the factory, anytime with sledgehammers, balls through the wall, let's go.
Yep.
Let's go to the next school, the Kent State Golden Flashes, Dick Stadium, Kent, Ohio, 55 years old. And I was doing the math on this in my head. I was like, wait a second, 55 years old. So that would be what year did they start playing games there? So just quickly, so that was what, 69? Is that 69? Yeah. Well, then the first thing I do is I run over and I type in Nick Saban, who is an alum here. And I go, wait, he had to be playing there then, right? I'm assuming he played in the 70s. But then I'm like, wait, he's in his 70s. So he played there 70 to 72. So yes, Nick Saban was there at this very stadium. Now let's check the other famous alum, Jack Lambert. Jack Lambert
he
played with Nick Saban. So yes, this is what I love though about saving, not building a new stadium. The history there alone. I know that they're not a juggernaut, but to think that when you're strapping on that uniform, or if you're going to the game, you're sitting there saying, hey, this is the same stadium that Nick Saban played at. This started his path to being arguably the greatest coach ever. And Jack Lambert and some of these other greats that have gone here. And I love it, man. I dig that history. And I think they should do all things to preserve that. If anything, Saban, what's up, dude? You own like 70 car dealerships. How about you fucking kick some money to Kent State, right? Tell me about your travels to Kent, Ohio.
So I've been there for 2 games, 2021, and then last year, 2023. There's an interesting backstory on the stadium. So they had a stadium that was more centrally located on campus. It was called Memorial Stadium, which we love. They didn't want to expand it anymore. And so they disassembled it and moved it to this lot of land on the far eastern part of campus. And they reassembled 17,000 seats. That was the beginning of the stadium. In the spot of Memorial Stadium on campus, they built a 12-story library, a student center, and put it in its place. I think they could have put the library here maybe and done that. But so there was an older stadium, but still 1969 is pretty old. And then, they've built up from there. In the end zone with the grass, which is under the scoreboard, they have these tables and there's these little plaques there. And you could see all the famous alumni that have played. And, you mentioned Jack Lambert and Nick Saban. I'm going to leave out some people, but Julian Edelman was a quarterback there. I saw one of Lou Holtz there. There's a few other guys. So
James Harrison.
They have a lot
James Harrison, yeah.
James Harrison. There's another one. They have a lot of good players. And then the Cleveland Browns played their camp there from 1975 to 1981. And they got permanent lights. They didn't get them until 1997. But now, Maction, that's a must because you're hosting all these weeknight games. But it has turned into a nice little intimate, comfortable stadium. You can see there's no track anywhere. You can see how close the bleachers are to the field. They put in the new turf. They put in the newer press box. They have that standing seating that you can do in the end zone with those tables. So there's a lot of places you can sit and watch the game and navigate, and a lot of different options at Dick's Stadium.
Yeah, let's go, man. And they also have an obstructed view. We're looking at what, 40% here? Do you correlate 40%. It with? Do you correlate it with the yard line marker?
Oh, that's the whole thing. I mean, I'm not a mathematician. I just go, okay, how much of the actual field can I see? So it's an exact science because it will tell you that. But what was interesting about this, so it's under a staircase next to the coach's office. I could hear the plays being called right there, like that window. There was a coach. But before the game, I got approached by somebody with the athletic department. They knew I was coming. I talked to them. And then the in-stadium DJ. And they said, hey, we want to have you be part of a promotion. And so there's a grocery store in the Midwest. It's called Meijer, Meijer. And they chose me as the Meijer fan of the game and gave me $100 gift certificate when you're on the road. And, it went a long way. I mean, I bought a lot of stuff with that 100. But I suggested that we do the presentation from the obstructed view seat. And so they put it on camera between the third and the fourth quarter, just the feed in the stadium. And so me and the DJ, we're sitting there, and then here comes the camera around the corner and pokes in at us, and we're under the staircase. It was a funny moment, but yeah, an obstructed view. There's actually a lot of obstructed view photos or views at Maction Stadium. So we like that.
Hell yeah, man. And it's awesome to get $100, man. Hit the grocery store. Shout out to them.
Huge. Clutch.
Let's
Clutch.
go. Yeah. You never know when.
I will say, so I want to talk about a notable game that I went to. So in 2021, that's when Coach Lewis, now went to Colorado and now he's at San Diego State. He had that offense rolling. And they played a game, you might remember, it was against NIU, and the score was 52-47. And it was a track meet. And Kent State had 682 yards in the game, and NIU had 663. So we're talking about 1,347 yards in a weeknight Maction game. That's like the epitome of Maction right there. So out of all the Maction games I've been to since 2017, that might be the most fun that I've ever had watching a game.
Dude, and if you were in the seat for that game, you might have been able to hear the defensive coordinators below drinking alcohol, large amounts of alcohol, being like, we can't stop shit. What's going on here? Excited to see what Sean Lewis can do. And that's another name that I think eventually will be another famous guy that was at Kent State that stopped through. Folks, if you're listening to this on the audio side, make sure to check out the B side where we go through the rest alphabetically on the Stadium Heads Maction edition. If you're watching on YouTube, I see 1,115 people. We love those numbers. Hit the like and subscribe button. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeads. If you could switch over to there, that would be great. But stay put, because we're going to be right. We're going to be also at the same time right back. We're not going anywhere. So do that, and remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. This is the Stadium Heads Maction style. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here. All right, we are back on the Stadium Heads B side. Just going through Kent State and their fine university. Next up, we go to Yager Stadium. Perfect name, Yager Bomb Stadium. I mean, if you're in college, come on, it's just perfect for you. Miami, Ohio, Oxford, Ohio. It's 41 years old. Seats 30,000 and 81, I believe. Tell me about your travels to Yager Stadium, because first off, when you have the box, I'm digging it. When you show me that right away, I like it. Then I kind of dig the brick in the end, or both end zones have like brick columns. I like this one more than I thought I was. And I know Miami, Ohio. The only thing that bums me out, and I didn't do a deep dive on the history of their stadium, but I know, like, if you don't know college football, you probably don't realize how great Miami, Ohio has been over the years. This was the launching pad to like so many great head coaches that it would be cool if they played at like 100-year-old stadium, because you're sitting there saying, well, these are the same places where these guys and this guy coached and this guy coached. So do you know any of the history of that? Or, but tell me about your travels here too. Yeah,
I do. So Yager Stadium was built in 1983 and it replaced Miami Field. And Miami Field was built in 1896. And before they tore it down, it was the second oldest D1 active stadium behind Franklin Field, which was built in Philadelphia. Penn, which was built 1 year earlier in 1895. And so I don't know the complete reason why they got rid of Miami Field. It was on campus, and either it was too small or, not updated, but they knocked it down. A stadium that was built in 1896, they knocked it down and they put Yager up. So very disappointing to know the history of that. But again, we talk about Archbold Stadium in Syracuse. Like, we can't go back 45 years and change it. But what you're talking about is all these guys in the history, and you showed a photo of the statues. So Miami of Ohio, I would say, almost better than anybody leans into their history. So what they call this is the cradle of coaches. and they've had some phenomenal coaches go through Miami of Ohio. So there's Paul Brown, there's Bo Schembechler, there's Ara Parseghian, there's Weeb Eubank. Most recently, there's John Harbaugh, and they all have a statue there. There's a banner up for Ben Roethlisberger, because obviously he accomplished great things in Miami of Ohio, put him on the map. But you're looking at a stadium built in 1983. That's one. It might be the newest one in the MAC. We just did Buffalo was 93. So, but one of the newer stadiums there, and they've turned it into part football stadium. One end zone's got the indoor facility, or the indoor practice facility, and the football center. And then the opposite end zone has all these statues, the cradle of coaches. And one thing that I thought was interesting is, if you look behind those statues, you see those little brick, there's two little brick buildings. Those are the ticket offices, little booths, and they moved them from Miami Field to this site along with the stands, just like they did at Kent State when they brought the stands from Memorial Stadium. So some symmetry between Kent State and Miami.
Yeah, and man, it's a tough decision to knock that thing down with that type of history. I was looking, and even like Gary Moeller and stuff was an assistant here. I wonder their list of assistants, because normally you take a lot of the staff. You have that much coaching legends, and obviously Ben Roethlisberger played here. I remember when they were really good there with him. But yeah, this is a cool shot with the fog coming in, man. When was this one?
So this was 2021. I want to say this was like fireworks smoke that hadn't cleared the field yet.
Okay.
But it made for, I'm trying to time out photos and capitalize. And when you see that, you want to get it. But I remember this game because I got a flat tire on the way of the game, and it was about 25 degrees, and I'm changing a tire on a rental car trying to get there in time, and I made it. But those are the traveler stories that, you're happy that you overcame them, but in the heat of the moment, you think it's just going to ruin everything. But made it there on time, and there's two games that I went to, like I said, 2019, and most of these photos are from 2021.
Got a flat tire. I have some.
That happened twice, 3 times. I've had that happen 3 times.
Woo.
Furman, UTEP, in Miami of Ohio.
And I still have that when you called me. This is.
Yeah. He felt like shit afterwards. Everybody.
No, that's Jerry Burns, famous Vikings and former Iowa Hawkeye head coach. Yeah, look at this, man. This is very cool. Very cool. I just wish they would have preserved that stadium. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But this is part of an element that makes Maction so great to me. We're going to talk about my favorite stadium in a little bit here, but it's got a deeper history than I think a lot of people realize. Ohio is football. I feel like that's a line from like Little Giants or something, but I feel like it really is. When you look at the history of the game, a big part of the state of Ohio has a gigantic influence on the game of football. That's why they have the Pro Football Hall of Fame there in Canton. And yeah, it's just awesome stuff, man. Very awesome stuff. Next, we will be going to Northern Illinois. But before I do that, I do want to tell you that you are listening to the Stadium Heads podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Make sure to check out Moon Off the Machine, Manji and Chris. They're getting you ready for the NFL season on the Propcast. They got episodes dedicated to season-long props and the awards market, so check that out. And also check out my pal CJ Sullivan and his road to $10 million on the Bottom Line Bombs. I think CJ is one of the funniest comedians that I personally know, and I also think he's got a deep knowledge in sports. So the shoe fits. Check out the Bottom Line Bombs. Tune in wherever you get your podcasts or the SGPN app. All right, back talking Mac Stadiums, NIU, man. I got to be honest. This was kind of my, I chose EMU back in the 90s when we started to get a couple weekday games on TV. But after that, when EMU was so bad that I kind of had a soft spot for NIU. I can remember them winning gigantic fucking games. I know recently they beat like Nebraska and Georgia Tech and stuff, but I remember them beating some really good teams. I remember like a ranked Maryland team losing, and PJ Fleck caught the game-winning touchdown actually with like 10 seconds left.
Wow.
But like this program's been very good for a while. I know Novak kind of kicked it in gear, but you had Jerry Kill here. You had a slew of good coaches, Dave Doran. Tell me about your travels to DeKalb. And do you know the correct way to say this one? Because I always feel like they give me shit.
I'm not gonna jump in.
I hot potatoed you. DeKalb.
I'm gonna my travels to Huskie Stadium. Yeah, let's talk about them. It's built in 1965, 28,000 seats. It replaced Glidden Field, and in 1963 to 1965 was a run that they made, and they played. I remember an episode or two ago we talked about old classic bowl names that you wish they would bring back, the Oyster Bowl and some of the Refrigerator Bowl. So from 63 to 65, they played in the Mineral Water Bowl, which that's some deep knowledge.
We got to get
right
that
there.
back.
But, yeah, let's get the Mineral Water Bowl back. So, but in 1965, they won the Small College National Championship. They won 10-0. Very famous. George Bork was the big player there. They have a plaque at the stadium, and so the momentum behind the program after those 3 years made them realize they needed a new, bigger stadium, and so they built this Huskie Stadium in 1965. Got it up to 28,000 seats. In one end zone, you have the Jordan Athletic Center, which was built in 2005, and then they added on the indoor practice facility in 2013. I've been there for 2 games, 2019 and 2022, and they have a Maction game. I want to say the second week, or no, I think it's November 13th. And I'm going to be there. A 2-year gap in travel to Maction is big because you can go to so many of them. So I will be at Huskie Stadium for a game this year.
Hell yeah, man. And Michael the Burner Turner was one of the guys they had that was just a beast. They had a running back. They had a couple running back. Garrett. Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. Oh, my God. Dude, I watched a game with LaShawn Johnson. This was, I want to say in the NFL, where he had like, I think he was with like the Cardinals, maybe.
The Giants.
Where he rushed for like almost 300 yards in an NFL game. It was something absurd. And he was a backup. He comes in and he just lights it up, dude. So they went from LaShawn Johnson to Burner Turner to Garrett Wolf. They had guys. Sutton Smith was a guy that I think was a guy recently that I love. I kind of love this program. I hope that they it's a shame we didn't get to see them because they would have qualified with Jordan Lynch in the 12-team playoff had it been, a decade ago. But yeah, I dig what they got going here. Look at that sky too. And I got a Huskie in the grass there, painted in the grass. I could dig it.
Yeah. In the opposite end zone, they have a Huskie statue there behind the goalpost. And, you mentioned the sunset. Very rarely are you getting these type of photos, but the central time zone is an hour behind. And so you can sneak it in at kickoff. There's one unique aspect, not necessarily in the good way, about this stadium that, this a little PSA to people who are thinking about going to a game. So there is no way to get from one side of the field to the other within the stadium. And so you see where that scoreboard is. Behind there is a street. And what you do is you go to the gate on one of your sides and you get a stamp and you walk on the street behind the scoreboard, and that's how you get to the other side. So I put a tweet out when I was there 2 years ago, and it was like a Google map image of the overhead and put some little yellow arrows demonstrating it. But La Tech is like that as well. Very rare to see that at the FBS level. I have saw some rumblings about some type of renovation maybe coming in the future. If they do that, hopefully they can address that. But just be prepared that if you're a road fan going to Toledo and you're sitting on the roadside and you want to go check out the home side because you're a stadium head and you like to explore, be prepared to make sure you get that stamp so you can go to the other side, check it out, and then go back through so you can return to your seat.
Hilarious. I imagine some people weren't aware of that. You know what I mean? Like You got I don't know, Central Michigan come to visit, and you happen to have a buddy from high school that went to Central Michigan. So you start dating some girl over there in Mount Pleasant, and she comes to the game, and you're like, well, I'm gonna go hang out with her for the first half. Second half, I got to be with my boys. You know what I mean? So, if you forget that could burn you. You got to get that stamp, folks. Yeah,
she might be sitting next to another dude by the end of the game, right?
Sutton Smith, Jordan Lynch might say, hey, I see opportunity. Let's go.
Yep.
100%, especially at that age. That's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I dig the stadium, man. I love Northern Illinois. I hope you know what I've always wanted though, man. If we're talking, you putting UMass in the conference puts them at 13 teams, I believe. Next year they'll have 13. I've been saying forever that Southern Illinois needs to be the other team. I know some people say North Dakota State, South Dakota State, or Northern Iowa. The Salukis and Huskies, they played last year, and I purposely sought out that game because I love it. I think that game should happen every year. I think Southern Illinois should be if you want to talk, I love the FCS. I want teams to stay in the FCS for the most part, but this is where the shoe fits, because if you've been to Southern Illinois, you realize it's like cornfields. It fits the MAC. It's perfect. Whereas like North Dakota State and South Dakota State, it's like you're stepping a little bit outside of MAC footprint. Southern Illinois makes sense. Who do you think they should get for a 14th team if they had to?
Well, first of all, it's interesting because I went to a playoff game at Southern Illinois last year, and they have a stadium that's about 12 years old. And if it were in the MAC, it would be a top 5 stadium, a little lower in capacity, probably like 17,000, but it could be added on. It's very nice. But Carbondale, I get what you're saying. I can see the fit there. I'm assuming UConn is not going to come because of the basketball program. That's probably not going to happen. That's the only other independent besides Notre Dame. So now you're talking about robbing another conference. There was a lot of talk about Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee, and apparently Western Kentucky was in, but Middle was not, and so they didn't want to split up that rivalry, and they didn't do that. And we talked about the stability of the MAC. Well, look at the flux of the Conference USA. I mean, now we got Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State, and they're Delaware and Missouri State. It's turning into a factory for FCS teams coming up. So why not pick a regional team like Southern Illinois if they were going to make the jump? So I don't necessarily have anyone in mind. I think pre UMass, I think Western Kentucky and in Middle would have been a great addition. I think they were in the MAC before as well. But now they got to go find a single person and not a rivalry duo like WKU and Middle.
Yeah, Eastern Kentucky might be considered. But yeah, I know they've had aspirations of jumping up for a long time. Anyway, I dig the stadium, and yeah. All right, folks, before we get to the next stadium, I want to tell you that the Stadium Heads Maction Edition episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8's now live. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries, so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry with more picks to make and extra ways to win. The excitement is higher than ever. The best part, you can win up to 325 times your original amount, and you can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. So sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football and college basketball. Obviously, right now it's the dog days of summer, but I'm still playing MLB CFL. I love the CFL. Playing that nonstop with the CFL action as well. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And of course, Circa contests have no rake. Circa Millions, pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for the $6 million prize, or you survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th. And use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with the proxy. Go to footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. Once again, footballcontestproxy.com. But look, if you don't have your trip booked for Vegas yet before football, the Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great way to, a great weekend to go out and have a great time. Hang out. If so, you'll be able to hang out with my pals, Stacking the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August 24th. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, we are back. I see 1,163 people watching this thing right now. Hit that like and subscribe button. That is by far, who knew Maction would be the episode that's bringing us the most live views? 64 now, 1164. Please, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN as we get to Ohio Stadium. Or, I'm sorry, not Ohio Stadium, Ohio University and Peden Stadium. Big difference. But let me tell you, man, this is a school that I love. And Athens, Ohio. 95 years old, seats 25,100. Look at that. I'm sorry, gorgeous. I'm revealing my hand here, but this stadium is fucking perfect. Look at this. Look at this right here. You got what is this? A pond, a lake, a river? What do we got going on here?
So there's, there's limited parking right around the stadium. And so there's other lots, and there's a little, like a bridge on the way, and there's a grass lot you can park in between the grass lot and then the grass that gets to the field. There's just a little, I don't know if it's a stream, but there's a waterway there. And I just saw, the stadium lit up, and it's a cool photo with the lights and the empty, and then the lights reflecting off the water. Pretty unique. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, this one I kind of love, man. They got a little grassy knoll in one area, and it's just got a cool classic look to it. And once again, 95 years old. So not only can you look at it from their own history within the MAC, where like obviously Frank Solich, who I think was such a great coach, Jim Grobe, I remember having great success there. And now, it's Tim Albin now, who's done pretty damn good lately. But when you mention a lot of those classic other MAC coaches, they all had to play here and stuff. And I love this one because this is what I mean of like the history of the game. When you think about who's played in this stadium, whether it's, Roethlisberger or Pennington, but Lambert, Saban, I love adding that history element to it and those great coaches all coached here. You know what I mean? Like those great coaches from Miami, Ohio, or wherever, Urban Meyer, whatever you want to say, Saban, they've all had to come to the stadium. So the energy in this stadium, to me, I hate to go all Bill Walton hippie on you, but I just think it's phenomenal. And I think this, like, just the fact it's that old and the history is that old. I'm sorry. This is like one of my favorite stadiums. I'm going to say it's like one of my favorite stadiums in all of college football. So tell me about your travels here. Yeah. So Athens, Ohio, first of all, is a great college town. It's consistently listed as one of the best in the country. 95-year-old stadium. I'm just going to rattle off some stats. So it's the oldest MAC stadium. It's the third oldest stadium in the state of Ohio. It's the 29th oldest stadium in college football. It was originally named Ohio Stadium at the same time as the shoe. So they ended up changing it to Ohio University's Athletic Plant. That was the name of the stadium. And then Don Peden was a coach and AD for 27 years. He helped found the MAC, and eventually they settled on the name Peden Stadium. In 2011, it was designated as an Ohio historical site. So that will preserve it and keep it going, and it will pass the century mark, which we love. This hill right here you were talking about that you like, its official name is Victory Hill. And I was there on last year, I think it was Bring Your Dog Day, and there was a lot of dogs up there. Otherwise, you can sit there for free and, pull up a blanket, and there's kids back behind you, and they're throwing the ball, which is always awesome, as we talked about. And then in the other end zone, there's it's called the Sook Center, and part of it has like some, for banquets and stuff, but the back side of it has balconies that overlook the stadium. And then, they have like a lot of places, they got a cannon they fire off when there's scores, and they got some military personnel that sends it off. But everything about it checks every box with the history, with the the intimate setting, with the different places you can choose to sit, the vantage points. It's evolved over the years. It has the new turf, as you can see. So there's not only history there, but they've also preserved it and improved it. And we can't ask for anything more than that as a stadium head.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And I'd like to get to that one. I
do have a quick story real quick. So in 2021, they played Miami for the Battle of the Bricks. That's the rivalry. And it was a huge crowd. And what they did was they said between the third and the fourth quarter, they were going to announce that one student was going to get free tuition for the entire semester. And they picked them. And that was enough to keep the students at the game. And at the game, they saw them play their historic rival. And it was a 35-33 win, big game. And so we've talked about, what do we say? Hey, give them a reason to go. Get them there. Get them. And then the students have a good experience. And then they want to come back on games when there's not a tuition giveaway. So that was something. And I put it on Twitter and other people had ideas. Now, did some students leave after they didn't win the tuition? Yes. But, man, I guarantee you that the ones that stayed and then those ones who were there for the first three quarters, they were impacted by seeing them play their historic rival in a huge game and winning 35-33. So, we saw the storage containers at BG. We see some other things there. That's another little trick. I don't want to say trick, but promotion you could do at a G5 to increase butts in the seats on one of these weeknight Maction games.
100%. I know they had Frank Solich bobble night, and I'm still trying to get in touch with the fan that can send me a Frank Solich Ohio Bobcat bobblehead for the office here. But if you got that, let me know. All right, I'm not asking for handouts. All right, but yeah, I mean, look, I love what they do. They had the Rourke brothers play quarterback. Well, I've got one of them's on the Giants right now. Wait, Curtis is a starting quarterback of Indiana now. He transferred. Nathan is on the New York Giants roster. He was on the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. So they've got a pipeline to the NFL going. And yeah, I love it, man. Look, next, before we get to the Toledo Rockets, I do want to tell you folks out there that the Stadium Heads podcast is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythms combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythms predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Next up, we head to Toledo, Ohio. 81 years old is the Glass Bowl, and that name, this is the only, to me, I know I just talked about Peden, and I love Peden. To me, this is the only competition for Peden, because it's called the Glass Bowl, man. This is why the Rubber Bowl sounds so great. The Glass Bowl just has that sound to it. 87 years old, seats 36,852. Tell me about your experiences to Toledo, Ohio, to the Glass Bowl.
Yeah, so it's funny because I don't know what your top 5 is, and we haven't talked about it at all, but Peden and Glass Bowl, I think they separate from the other ones.
Yes,
for all
yes,
the
and I love the other ones, but I'm sorry, I love the other ones, but these two just are historic to me.
Absolutely. And, we're going to do Conference USA next, and they have the Sun Bowl, but then there's a lot of newer programs, and we did the AAC, and there's a lot of new ones. So G5 is a lot of times you don't have the history that you do in the MAC with a couple of these stadiums. So we appreciate it. But, the Glass Bowl was built in 1937 and started out with 8,000 seats. It's up to 36 now. In 1946, there was a renovation, and they included a lot of glass elements in the renovation, and the glass industry is fairly prominent in the city of Toledo. So that's where the name got assigned to it, because before that it was named University Stadium, and they changed it in 1946 after the renovation. In 1990, that press box was added. The second level on the roadside, those bleachers were added. And then recently, a little bit of inside knowledge, the Italian League played their championship game, flew to America and played it at the Glass Bowl in the summer last year. So, and they're supposed to host it next year, 2025. They're going to have it back at the Glass Bowl. So if you're looking for time and you're in Toledo and you're missing, that experience at the Glass Bowl, check out the Italian Bowl championship in 2025.
Dude, I'm gonna circle that. One of my best buddies out here in California played linebacker in the Italian League for a long time.
Wow.
So I'm going to recommend that. We might have to. And didn't they just hire John? They just hired John Gruden.
Did they? The Italian League?
He's a coach in the Italian League, I believe.
Wow.
So,
I didn't know that. Well, it was played around July 4th last year, somewhere around there. So just, I'm sure they're going to try to be somewhere around that next year when they come back.
I'm just quickly fact checking the Gruden thing, because I believe, is it the European League? It might be the European League, but it's an Italian team.
Yeah. European League of Football.
No, oh yeah, you're right. This is the ELF. This franchise used to be in the Italian League, though. There you go. That is the Milano Seaman. Great name. But that is John Gruden coaching them currently. And look, shout out to David Matola. Says Toledo is the top list for Dundee to take his wife and kid on vacation. Yeah, look, he definitely is. Not the Rubber Bowl. Glass Bowl is high on the list. All right, my son's got to get educated. All right, you can't count on these school systems to tell you about the Glass Bowl. All right. Look, we got 1,199 people. Let's get to 1,200. There, we got there right as I said it. 1,200 people. Hit that like and subscribe button. Shout out to David Matola in the chat. This stadium's fantastic, though, man. And look at this. What are we looking at? This is like fucking like the Braveheart I'm seeing here. You're building a Game of Thrones here. What is this about? Yeah.
So that's behind. There's just some of these. So the exterior. So behind the scoreboard on the end zone that's opposite the football facility, some of the exterior has those. There's some quirks about this stadium. So when they remodeled it, if you stay with that, and you can see the brick on those ones too, but if you stay with this, so in 2000, we're talking about 1990, there was a renovation. They added this second level. They did not relocate the light poles. So there's a obstructed view there that you can get. But we talked about Washington State when we did the Mountain West one, and they had a pole that I got a ticket behind. So similar type thing. And then if you go to the next photo, so it's pretty cool with this rocket. So this rocket is a genuine rocket from the U.S. Army military program. It was put there in 1961, and it is, so their rival Battle of I-75 BG. It is, if it were lit, it is supposed to land on the 50-yard line of Doyt Perry Stadium. So, if things aren't going a certain way, hey, you don't want the Rockets to light it off. But talk about a cool little factoid for old school rivalry, having a weapon of war pointed at your rival's 50-yard line. You got to love that.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is where I just wish I could ask my departed buddy Mike Leach about what his thoughts were on this, because I can't believe I never thought to ask him about this, because I guarantee you he would have had a genius answer for that. But that thing is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. And the obstructed view is there. What are you deeming that one percentage wise?
It's very high. It's one of those, you can unobstruct it by leaning to one side or the other, but, so it's only blocking about 5 or 10%, but it's unique because you're not going to get that. Usually when you add bleachers, you're going to account for the lights and move it back. But again, like if you go back a couple photos to the overhead view, keep going. Right there. It's in the field of view, but that is still a great stadium photo right there. And it just has a little bit of charm and personality. And, we like little stadium quirks and imperfections, but yeah, if you go up there, you can get your nose pretty close to it and it makes a funny photo.
And let me tell you, they were damn close to going undefeated last season. They were beating Illinois the entire game. They lost. Yeah, had them, and that would have they had a perfect regular season other than that game. So they went 11-1 with their one loss being, I think, 32-29 or something like that. I watched that game. They almost did that. If they do that this year or the coming years, and this has been a very good fucking program for a long time. Whether it was Matt Campbell, I know it's Jason Candle now, but it just seems like no matter who they throw back there, like I said, Gary Pinkel. This program is a legit contender for that group of 5 bid year in and year out, which I think only makes it that much better that, Toledo could essentially be able to build this program. You get to the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe you upset a team. They play at Mississippi State this year. They could have a chance to beat an SEC team. I'm fascinated by it. I can't wait to watch. And I love what this program's doing. I love the stadium, everything about the stadium, from the rockets to just the cool look to it. Jumping over to our next stadium, my brother has been here. Waldo Stadium. Shout out to Waldo's bar outside of Waldo Stadium, where my brother loves to hype the liquor pitchers that they give you. Just that makes perfect sense on a college campus. It makes me think of what at East Carolina, you would get these just fish bowls of just straight liquor, pretty much at a bar. It's like if you're gonna drink this, you're not gonna remember the night. But as you can imagine, a ton of people would drink that. So shout out to what they're doing there. Kalamazoo, Michigan, Waldo Stadium, 85 years old, 36,391 seats. The people, obviously PJ Fleck coached here recently. They would have been in the 12-team playoff had we had this thing. And JJ Watt played here before he transferred to Wisconsin. So you've had, and obviously their history goes back a little bit further than that. The stadium's been here a long time. Tell me about your travels to Kalamazoo.
So I've been to 3 games at Waldo, 2019, 2022, and 2023. It has a similar kind of like Nippert, kind of like Bobby Dodd, where even though the stadium was built in 1939, they've been playing on this site in some form or fashion since 1914. So we're talking about 110 years of Western Michigan football on this physical field. It started out with 16,000 seats. Now it's up to 36,000. So it and Toledo are the biggest stadiums in the MAC. When they played back before the actual stadium, they were called Western State Teachers College. Obviously the program has evolved since then. Dwight Waldo, who the stadium is named after, is the first president of Western Michigan University. 1973, they increased capacity from 16 to 25, and then they boosted it up to 30 in 1989. So it's progressed pretty naturally. You see in the end zone, the far one, it's SEELYE. It's like Seal Center, and that's an indoor practice facility. It has offices, but on the back side of it are suites that overlook the stadium, which are very cool. So this is a stadium that, again, they've been playing Western Michigan football there for 110 years, and look what they've turned it into. They haven't ditched it. They haven't moved it across campus. They haven't disassembled it. They haven't condemned it. They've invested in it. And a lot of people think it's one of the best destination stadiums in the MAC. And when they get things popping, their crowds are really good too. So this is one of the funner stadiums to go to game atmosphere wise in the MAC.
I think it's just changed my final 5 order, which I'm going to have to change based off this. But yeah, I dig it. And if you look in the far right corner, that's where Tim Allen used to sell Coke.
Wow.
He went to Western Michigan. And he might have caught a a coke trafficking charge. Just more power, a little home improvement. But also, I mean, look, Greg Jennings. Remember Greg Jennings for the Green Bay Packers played here. Corey Davis was recently a first round draft pick by the Tennessee Titans. They've had some guys. Jason Babin also played for them. So it's cool that they have that history. And I do think this moved up my power. While we're doing this show, I think it changed my opinion as I was doing a deep dive while you were talking about this. And we do have an obstructed view. I mean, this one. Now, I don't think we have it exactly. Okay, so what the fuck, man? You're getting what's the percentage here? Because I almost feel like when you're going, north to south here, this is
it's probably like 19% or something.
Yeah,
we throw out the numbers, but this so this in 2022, this thing went crazy on Twitter. It's a 2-seat bleacher, which you never see, and it's between a brick wall and a chain link fence, and it has a seat number. It's part of general admission. And what was funny, we call it the makeout seat. We call it the vape seat. The you take in and you use the contemplation seat. Any of those things. But when I put this up in 2022, there's a reporter, Mark Skoll, was in Kalamazoo, and we did a Zoom and we talked about it. But he went down to the university and it was almost like a hit piece. Like they found somebody in the athletic department and they stuck a microphone. What are you doing selling these seats? And they're like, we don't sell these seats. But when he did the story, it was cool because he had a camera like affixed away but pointing at the stadium, and he started talking and you don't see him. And then he moves his head and he peeks his head from behind the wall. And it was the most unique seat in college football and everything. So last year we tried to duplicate it, but this, like the Buffalo seat behind the play clock, these 2 seats in the MAC, they may be among the most famous obstructed view seats in college football. And this one in particular, just the fact that they consciously decided to build a 2-seat metal bleacher and stick it in there. They, whatever the red flag checklist, they just continue to bypass that over and over to the point where a stadium built in 1939 is showing up in 2022 and pointing it out the flaws of a classic stadium. So that's the backstory to this seat.
I absolutely love it, folks. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. You gotta love this. I think this one I think I slept on this one when I made my list. I don't think I was truly factoring in this. I think I like it more than my list. So we're at the end of the alphabet, as you can tell, folks, with the MAC. There's another shot of Michael from the obstructed view. Love the Waldo Stadium sign there, and they need to go back to this retro logo, by the way, because it has Wyoming vibes, but it just looks really cool too at the same time. Your top 5. Yes, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, we do have a graphic for it. If you're listening to this, the College Football Campus Tour, Michael Barker, his top 5: the Glass Bowl, home of Toledo; Peden Stadium, home of Ohio; Akron Stadium, obviously, InfoCision, home of Akron; Scheumann Stadium, Ball State; and Kelly Short Stadium, the home of Central Michigan. That would be his top 5. Mine, which I'm going to adjust my actual graphic for. I'm ad-libbing this on the fly here in a way. But my number 2 were flat out Peden Stadium, Glass Bowl. Like there's nothing close to that. To me, there's another layer. After that, though, I do think I will throw off Akron Stadium, even though I don't know, Akron looked good. I didn't think Akron was going to make my top 5 until I saw your photos. But I'm definitely putting, Waldo's in this top 5 now. So I'll go Peden 1, Glass Bowl 2, Yager 3, Scheumann 4, 5. I'm going with the likes of Waldo, even though, yes, Akron's looked fantastic. If anything, Maybe Yager or Scheumann. Nah, I think I'm okay with my 5. Let's go with like I said. At 1, I got Ohio. 2, Toledo. 3, Miami, Ohio. 4, Ball State. And 5, I'm putting Western Michigan. And I'll be honest, Western Michigan mightn't be able to slide up to 3. The more I think about it. But your thoughts on my list? Obviously, this is subjective, but and I haven't been, so you have a leg up. But
so I think either me and you are thinking the same, or Peden and the Glass Bowl are 1A and 1B in my opinion. And Glass Bowl is a little bit more of a classic layout with the actual bowl, and it makes the U shape, and we got the press box and all that. And Peden is a little bit different with the end zones, and there's a little bit of a bowl, but it's not full. And then you got the hill there instead of the athletic center, but they both are historic. They're both laid out very well. So I think those are 1A and 1B. InfoCision Stadium, as I said in the very beginning, I think it's nice and modern and big, and I would love to see the program catch fire and host some big games there, because I think it would be a great atmosphere. And then really anything, there probably could be 5 or 6 candidates for the 4 and 5 slots. You make a lot of good points with Waldo. I think, I put Kelly Shorts in there. I think I'm a little bit, I don't want to say, I'm impacted by my experiences there. I went to the rivalry game, homecoming.
The snow photo might make it number 1.
And that's where, we've talked about boots on the ground will affect the way that you choose. And then Scheumann Stadium, I just like that, the layout. I like the grass hill, which a couple of these have. I like the columns in the end zone. But really, there's 4 or 5 of them that could fill out, in my opinion, those spots. And, you chose Yager, you chose Waldo, and we mentioned a couple others. They're semi-interchangeable.
Yeah, and that's fair. To me, there's a top class, and then the rest are pretty good. But Peden and Glass Bowl, I would agree with you, folks. Let us know what your top schools are in the MAC, as far as maybe you live in the Michigan area and you've been going to 3 or 4 of these stadiums, or the Ohio area. Shit, I mean, I feel like if you're in Ohio, you got no excuses. Get to these stadiums. But let us know your order. Let us know what you think of our order. Either way. And subscribe, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN, or wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. If you can hop over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. That always helps. Sponsors look at that stuff. This isn't our first rodeo here. That's kind of like, I've talked to many companies that have been our sponsors with SGPN, and whether it's Sports Gambling Podcast or the College Football Experience or whatever, they've always said that they pay attention to that stuff. So we're asking you to get on over and hit that subscribe button, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. We have over 1,200 people watching this, like 1,220 people watching this thing right now, which we love that number. We just want to make sure you stay, because this is just the off-season talk. Wait till the season starts. We got the Conference USA next week, right? Which has some great stadiums. Get educated with college football. I think this is a great podcast for that. And, but at the same time, when Michael gets going for the season, I'm telling you, his schedule's insane. We're going to cover it to me like no one has done before. And, I'm excited to do that. So also give Michael a follow, because his Twitter handle, even when this thing isn't live, I'm telling you, that might even be a bigger catch. Get on over there at CFB Campus Tour, because like I said, he's going to like 90 games a season ago. There's a reason why he was on WGN News Network in Chicago last week. He's going to top that this year, we think. 90 games last year. Can you top that? But either way, can you imagine that if the football season's like 4 months long? He's got to tackle that. So you're going to want to follow his Twitter page at CFB Campus Tour. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. And yes, Stadium Heads Podcast. Check it out, folks. We'll be back talking Conference USA a week from now, but please, Maction fans, let us know what your thoughts, what stadium you love best. Maybe it's your own school. Maybe you haven't been to the other schools, but you say, damn it, Yager Stadium's the best, and these are the reasons why. Let us know. Help us get educated as well. All right. Until next time, folks, this is the Stadium Heads Podcast, Maction style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Can't be found. My celly's off, so I can't be found. I'm on a worldwide tour, touring every fucking curtain down. They say the Lord watches over my sins. Over my head, watching hair as it thins. Over the ledge, it ain't letting me in. There's still regiments and relevance to letting me win. Win, lose, or draw. You ain't prepared unless you all ready to lose it all. Losing a brawl? Yeah, that's a ride a day. Good friends know my Nina Hideaway. They came and went, but the riders stay. So it's like I won the lottery and can't be found until I resurface with the latest 33 and a third and 45 circles. You ain't got that shit, and I ain't 45 king. But on the beats, I've been doing my thing. When I start the program and the doorbell ring, I gotta leave town to a place I can't be found. My celly's off, so I can't be found. I'm on a worldwide tour, touring every fucking curtain down. American dreams, lessons, and still they work. I guess the sand on the beach still was really dirt. Now I'm going home, flying over Rome at 30,000 feet. Like, damn, is that really Earth? I see the killers work on walls, familiar turf. Got a little school in graph, 101 was first. Got a little school in math, didn't really work. But put the numbers on the block and I make them hurt. Any block is my stomping ground where my people lay low so they can't be found. They don't wanna be, ain't from the crew, but I'm honoring. Liquid, soul assassin, harmony. Type of armory that's more than a shield. Type of armory's DeLorean steel. Type of warrior's ill. So true to my sound, but dig deep so it can't be found. My celly's off, so I can't be found. I'm on a worldwide tour, touring every fucking curtain down.
It's the revenge of our stealth, the intelligence plane. A manifestation of karma. The far left, low keys, let it be. Listen, whispering words of wisdom. Ghost dog breathe in the shadow of leaves. Same darkness I strip at those crooks and thieves.